world medals. In 2023, just this past year, correct? You moved? 22, I was mistaken. In 2022, took Heather's previous role as the endurance coach at the West Hub in Victoria, where he now works with the CAF endurance athletes out there, including athletes like 800-meter Canadian record holder Brendan McBride, among others. I will let Mark take it away for reaching the championship stage.
Less equipment, the better. Thanks for the opportunity to chat with you guys. Right from the start, I think I'm redundant because everybody that's spoken so far, I think philosophies are fairly similar. Can you hear me at the back? Fantastic. Not a lot of differences, really. So I think there's going to be a lot of repetition with what I've got, but hopefully I can just pass on my perspective, practical, personal experiences, and there'll be, like I said, there's going to be a lot of stuff here that they've already said, so it's like, what am I doing here? Okay, but before we get going, the most tedious bit, people say that you've got to do your background. There's going to be 3 to 4 kind of main areas, a little bit of background, what made good to great. Like I said, the experiences that I've had, really. So that's hopefully what I can pass on to you. My background, right. Butcher's son from a little village called Watersfield in Sussex. It's about 40 miles, what do you call it, 60, 70 kilometres south of central London. So a working class lad, worked in the garage, eventually worked about a mile or 2 up the road from where I was born. And kept things pretty simple, really. So it's always important to know where you started from and what got you set the scene for what got you here in the first place. Excuse me, I'm already there. Football attributes, I think overall the skill-hungry years, about 8 to 13, I got criticised in the UK once for mentioning how important football was to me, and I think are we close enough to England here to call it football, or can we call it soccer? Spatial awareness, balance, coordination, lateral movement skills, interchanges of pace, skill-hungry years, that 8 to 13s, all-round development, team sports. I felt that was a critical and fundamental part of what helped me, not only as an athlete, but also as a coach, moving down the years. Fortunate enough to have had three coaches. First one's a guy called Martin Billen, who taught me fundamentals of how to sprint and how to run quick. That was born at Bognor AC, down on the south coast of England. Then moved with Matt Patterson, and people probably know Mr. Ovett in the day, and they were quite influential, and I know his name's already cropped up with that philosophy of all the bits of Harry Wilson's, Steve, Kim's, and all of these other people. So, Steve, they taught me how to be an international athlete. And I know we use that word intensity, but my God, did I know how to train hard when you train with Sobet. And you kind of like realise that, hey, I'm not going to be the best in the world at 1500 when you train with, what was supposed to be a world record holder at the time. And then putting the icing on the cake probably really was Alan's story of stripped it back a little bit, trained too hard. Had that, as I said, you knew that you were going to, ideally wanted to be the best at 15, but I knew that probably I was going to have to manoeuvre up to the 5k. But Alan sort of put that wisdom and knowledge to the programme of trying to make that transition through to 5k. However, we'll lighten up the equation here. If all fails, do the steeplechase, yeah? So, not quite the scene. Relevant for today's discussion, it's like gap analysis, really. This was, I wanted to be the best in the world of fitness, but then I wanted to be the best at steeple. I got heavy. These were the days, and I wasn't going to talk about too much about social media, but social media, if they had been down here, then I'd have got completely, I got ripped to shreds anyway, but I was putting endangering athletes and all sorts of stuff. But this was done in '97, probably World Championship year, first year I'd started. So obviously, Yeah, not great. Had its challenges. So not the greatest introduction to steeple for me. But the point was for the discussion really, because we'll cap on that, words, terminology, gap analysis. Want to be the best, what do you got to do? You've got to strip it down. How do you do that? All the things, break it down into manageable pieces. So I wanted to be the best. How do I do that? Clearly, needed to sort that out, didn't I? And I'm a motor technician. I'm very analytical, so that's get a lot of this sort of like paralysis by analysis type of thing, but in the end, go away, walk the dogs, and then just break things down into simple contexts. Part two of the background, really, yeah, as you can see, ex-athlete, coaching transition. I coached high school, I coached out at the local club. I wasn't associated to that particular club. 14 to 18-year-old guys, high schoolers, I think you would call them, English schools for me. And I was introduced to a young lady called Hayley Parry, who was going to be towing. And a little bit like Felix with Jean Simon and Charles, that's how I did my apprenticeship with her, and sort of had a similarity, a sort of personality that kind of like linked and worked well together. So that was my hands-on apprenticeship. She came at the time of wanting to manoeuvre from 800 to 15. This was right at the very beginning of coaching seniors. I had coached, like I said, was dealing with these younger guys that kind of helped and assist us being quite good training partners. And so by the end of, she eventually went on to win a bronze medal at the World Championships in 2003. In that time, I worked for UK Athletics as a federation. Said I'd never work for a federation again, and here I am. But more as a regional performance manager. And then, I think, and I haven't got the years right because I'm getting old now, but 2005 to 6, I transferred into becoming what I think was the first professional coach in track and field, who went into I was a senior performance coach, but my roles and responsibilities was at London South, where I was managing a little bit like what Heather does, but athlete-coach relationships with mainly jumpers, throwers and sprinters. There wasn't too many people in endurance in Brixton and in cities of London. Hang on a minute. I've not finished yet. Not a teacher. It's OKO2 Nike Oregon Track Club Elite. Yeah, I always wanted to be a better coach. Always thought I'd have to go abroad to stretch my skill sets. Opportunities didn't exist. I was getting a little frustrated in the UK, and so opportunity come my way to take over from Frank Gagliano at OTC. And so it's kind of tapped up a little bit in Beijing, and by December 2008 I took the position. So 15 years later, kind of had the American machine kind of ate away at me, and it was time for me to get on my bike and have a new challenge and new motivation, and hence I've taken over from Heather at the hub as endurance. I don't know what my official title is. Endurance hub coach? Sounds about right. So, I can do this now, yeah? So, getting to the next level. I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm not too sure whether I've done this. It's going to be a little bit provocative. Some contentious areas in this next slide or two. And I think it's important as coaches that we challenge ourselves and figure out what we stand for, or what are the pushing buttons, because that word will come up a little bit lately in the next few slides. But a bit of thought-provoking. So what does not make a good athlete great? Talent. Blame your parents. We all failed 100-metre runners, is what I was told. Keep moving up an event until you find an event that you're good at. Okay. But it takes more than genetics to be successful, and over time, I think the one thing that's kind of stood out, the people that I've worked with in a little bit at the sharp end of the sport, is athletes that with really good, sound decision-making processes. That for me is an important part of what I call a talent gene, and I think that's genetic, but it can be developed. we all associate with this one. Every athlete's different, and each athlete with very different physical characteristics can achieve similar results. Brought up in the co-ovid era, completely two different spectrums of how they were coached and what they did, but they were bouncing world records between each other. So that's important, and I think that encapsulates some of the conversations that was had before. You've got to be careful in comparing individual characteristics with each other. It's interpreting the entire package and how that stands with their own personal backgrounds. It's about individualised coaching for sure. That's definitely what's required at world-class level, and it's not a one-size-fits-all process. Most in IST we call, in my country, in Britain, it's more the nutritionists, physiologists, psychologists. I'm not start bashing everybody, but like I said, I think it's important to mention that. In here we have IST, which is integrated sports. Now, integrated support team. So that encapsulates it all together as well. Each and every one is important, but for me, provide me with the data and let me then deal with implementing the program. Find that they don't have all the facts, don't have all the pieces of the jigsaw. All of these guys are going to want to look in their own particular departments and think that that area is the most important one to them. What we have to do is to squeeze the balance and weave it up and down. Balance and percentages, and that will keep coming up. That needs to continually weave as we go through an athlete's career in the program. Yeah. No celebrities, yeah. Top athletes don't always make good coaches. Athletes are selfish, and coaches need to be selfless. It's difficult for ex-athletes sometimes to explain. We need to explain to an athlete, understand what it is, why we're doing it. I think Peter just spoke about that just a minute ago. We all got to try and communicate with them. Ex-athletes are so single-minded and tunnel at the top level anyway, that they just struggle to express themselves in the right way. And I suppose, is it worthwhile talking about the US collegiate system there? A lot of people that have gone to that, it's very much on, that's what I did, this is what I thought, this is because I did this, I think that this is successful and you should do it. They don't have all those kind of facts available. So there are a lot of pros and cons with the collegiate system in my eyes. This group, these are usually arrogant and they sound like the sound of their own voices. They're reasonably opinionated and they don't always have a perspective on exactly what we're doing. Time for a story. There was a guy called Steve Binns when I first hit the scene and set people at Seville 5K. I had a pretty decent race, run well, and there was a guy called John Rodder who wrote Steve's autobiography, come up to me and said, it was a good race. Steve said to me, cool, you must have run well, because he doesn't speak too much. But he says, but the opposite to that is, you only need to look in a hotel lobby and see a journalist or these particular people sort of sitting there smoking cigars, getting drunk in the middle of the night to assume that they're actually passing judgment on you. So it's important to take a deep breath and understand that some of the stuff that's written about you isn't necessarily true because they don't fully understand what it is that you do. Not wishing to get myself sacked here after a year, my line manager's here, but I kind of like to put this one in here. Federations, IAAF, anything that's modernised, reports, paperwork, bureaucracy, middle management, administrators, form fillers. It's become more and more as we go along. I'm a working class lad, and so I must have been picked on at school from my headmaster because I've always resisted authority ever since, and continually do so. So I'm still around for a year. But there's a statement, and I refer to my notes because I don't want to